Hello, my name is Patrick Moore. I'm Assistant Dean of Financial Aid here at USC, and we're having our Financial Aid Google Hangout this afternoon for newly admitted students. We're going to wait just a few minutes as people come into the room. Oh, right now we have 0, so that's not a good thing. So, if this is correct. Do you guys see the number of viewers at the bottom of your screen?
I don't know.
And is Jente still there?
I see one question from
We have a viewer.
Huh?
We have a viewer.
Okay. Yes, we have a viewer. This is odd. I'm sorry. Are we up and running? The answer is yes, we are. Last time we did this, I will share with the group that we had. There's a little. Oh, yeah. Now we have viewers coming in. I see. I was a little confused because it said viewers were none, but obviously there are people there. So let's start again. My name is Patrick Moore, and I'm Assistant Dean of Financial Aid, and I'd like to welcome you and thank you for participating in today's Google Hangout with the Financial Aid staff. Oh, the viewers are coming now. I see them all jumping up. I'm joined by several of my colleagues here today, and we're going to spend next little while answering questions that you may have and talking about the financial aid application process. We know financing is a big decision when it comes to making decisions about financing your college education. These are important family decisions. We want to make sure that you're able to make an informed decision, that you know what resources the university brings to the table, and you know how you're going to manage your family contributions. I am joined by 5 of my colleagues here today who are going to answer your questions. I want to encourage you to start writing those questions in the Q&A section on the sidebar. Let's start with Armando. Can you please introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Armando Illescas, and I work in the Financial Aid Office as a Student Services Advisor.
Okay, and Cody.
Hi, I'm Cody Gucia. I'm a current Assistant Director in the Aid Coordination Unit here in the Financial Aid Office.
Okay, Danny.
Hi, my name is Danny Finley, and I'm an Assistant Director in the Outreach Unit here in the Financial Aid Office.
Great. Jessica.
Hi everybody, my name is Jessica Medina and I am a Senior Assistant Director here at the office and the Outreach Unit as well, so welcome.
Okay, and Susan.
Hi everybody, my name is Susan Garibaldi and I'm a Senior Associate Director in the Need Analysis Unit.
Okay. So again, we're going to start taking questions. If you all want to write your questions into the Q&A section, let me just start to say we know that you're making decisions on where you're going to be attending college by this Friday, May 1st, the national commitment deadline. It is not too late to apply for financial aid if you have not done so. We encourage you to do so today. Probably if you are applying today for the first time, it would not be possible for us to get your financial aid eligibility to you in order to make that May 1st decision. But we're running very, very timely at this point. Our application processing is going very quickly. If you are submitting appeals, I'm going to ask Susan to tell us. Susan, if people are submitting appeals today, what's the turnaround time on those appeals?
We're processing appeals within about a day or two of when we receive them at this point. We're turning them around really quickly.
Okay, so appeals are happening really quickly. If you handed it in today, we'll process it within the next day or two. So we do have a couple questions, and I think we're going to take Samuel's question first. And Cody, if you could answer this question, I would appreciate it. How is the federal Pell Grant awarded? Is it awarded by the school or the government?
I'd be glad to. Thanks, Patrick. So actually, that has a 2-part answer. It actually is awarded by the federal government, but we coordinate it. So when you submit all of your financial aid documents to our office and you go through processing, based on the analysis that's conducted, we can determine whether or not students are eligible for Pell Grant. Once we do that, we communicate it to the federal government, which is the source of the funding. They send us the funding, and then we disperse it to the students. So in short, it's kind of a tag team effort between the university and the federal government.
Yeah, that's right. That's a great answer. Thanks, Cody. So if the federal government supplies the money, but we have to verify your application to determine your award amount. So here's another question from Anish, and I'm going to ask Danny to take this question. Anish asks, is this chat helpful for international students?
Definitely. This chat wouldn't be as helpful for international students because international students aren't necessarily eligible for need-based aid, which we handle here in the financial aid office and what we will be covering in this chat today. You may qualify as an eligible non-citizen. Now, you'll want to check our website to see what qualifies as an eligible non-citizen, but if you don't believe that that's your case, then most likely this Google Hangout won't be particularly helpful for you.
Okay, that's a pretty good assessment. We have a good question here from Annie, and Jessica, if you could answer this question, I'd appreciate it. Is there any work study available for students not awarded any need-based aid?
Of course. So work study is a need-based award from the federal government. So unfortunately, if it's not listed in your award summary, you would not be able to find a work study job on campus. However, you can possibly try to find a non-work study job on campus through one of the offices on campus. But this is a very proactive process. The student would have to seek out that position on their own.
Okay. Thanks so much, Jessica. I'm going to ask Armando to take Prajwal's question about National Merit Scholarships. Armando, if you would, I am a National Merit Scholar, so it will be a 50% tuition per year for 4 years. Also, how long will it take for me to show up on the file if the National Merit Organization sends them out by May 1st? Is it 100% guaranteed for National Merit finalists? That was not a short question. Do your best.
So we get a roster regarding the National Merit recipients. Give it a couple of weeks, and we should have that updated on your file. So it's just a matter of you selecting USC as #1 choice, and then the National Merit Foundation sends us that roster, and it takes a couple of weeks to update.
Okay, that's really good. Okay, whoa, the questions are coming in right now. And C. Barker, here we go. Jessica, let's talk about these complete appeals. How do I know when my appeal is complete?
So when your appeal is approved, you will get an email from the financial aid office requesting that you view the changes on your My Financial Aid, or your FAST account, I'm sorry, on your FAST account. And if it's denied, you would also receive an email from our office as well. So communication is via email in regards to appeals from our office in a nutshell.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. Susan, I'm going to ask you to take this question from Claire, if you would. And the question is, if we have an appeal pending after May 1st, will it still be completed, considered completely?
Yes, it definitely will if the student has committed to USC. If the student has not committed to USC, then it probably won't be processed unless the student was approved for a commitment extension.
Okay, so that's I want to make sure, I'm not sure if everyone could hear that. So if you've made your May 1 commitment to USC, sure, if we get an appeal after the fact, we will continue to process your appeal. We'll be processing your financial aid for the next 4 years, most likely. But if you don't commit by USC, no, we won't bother to process the appeal. We'll make the assumption that you've chosen to go to school someplace else. So let's go back to the questions here. There's a question about PLUS loans, and that's my expertise, so I don't know what it says yet, but I saw it sticking up there, so I'm going to answer it. Here we go. Okay, can you have a PLUS loan cover more than one school's cost of attendance? Well, that's an interesting question from Claire. You can't actually have one PLUS loan cover the cost of attendance for multiple schools. However, if you are attending multiple schools under what's called a consortium agreement, where you're taking a course at another school that allows you to receive credit at USC, we can count those in your cost of attendance here. There are other instances where students are enrolled in 2 schools at one time, or parents may be borrowing Parent Plus loans. to cover the attendance for 2 dependent students, so that's also a possibility. Those 2 dependent students could be here at USC, or they could be at one at USC and one at another school. So there's lots of combinations to that. So as far as covering school at more than one school's cost of attendance, if you are in a degree granting program here at USC and you're taking courses at another school, like when an overseas studies program, and we know those courses will come back to you, we can process a PLUS loan for those. I hope that answers the question. Let me go over here for 1 second, and we'll look at more questions. Cody's going to take Samuel's question on Cal Grants. Let me get back to this.
Hi, Samuel. Just
hold on 1 second. Let's put it up in the. Where did it go? Oh, here we go. Here we go. Here we go, Cody.
Is it all highlighted now?
Is the Cal Grant determined in the same fashion as the Pell Grant?
Perfect. Thanks, Patrick. Quick answer, Samuel. It's very similar. Yes, it is. So it involves a 2-step verification process. Once again, it is similar to the Pell Grant, except rather than corresponding with the federal government, we're corresponding with the state government. In this case, the state of California. CSAC is the name of the agency that gives those funds for Cal Grant eligible students.
Okay, I'm going to ask Armando to talk more about this eligible non-citizen concept that he mentioned a moment ago. What does it mean by eligible non-citizen?
So primarily AB 540 in terms of the state awards. There are pretty much AB 540 applicants that could pretty much do the DREAM grant, and as well residents of the U.S. are eligible for aid as long as you have the Social Security number.
Okay, yeah, as you said, there are documented residents or permanent residents of the United States that are eligible. There are also those students who are undocumented residents if they qualify under the state rules called AB 540, Assembly Bill 540. I believe that Jessica is going to take Claire's question. If someone wants to prepay 4 terms of tuition in order to freeze tuition, are you still eligible for financial aid and merit scholarships? Good question.
Well, the answer is that you're eligible to apply for financial aid and merit scholarships, but the amount that you have prepaid wouldn't change because you're prepaying the full amount and you're essentially on a contract. So you're more than welcome to apply for financial aid, but the amount that you paid with that prepaid amount wouldn't be adjustable based off of what you would receive from financial aid or in a merit scholarship, possibly from a department or possibly from another source on campus.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, so I guess the point is, let me clarify one thing. If you're prepaid, your tuition's prepaid for 4 years, and now you get a scholarship, what happens to that scholarship money? At the end of the contract, that unused money would be given back to you, in essence. There is a question about budget appeals, and I think Susan's going to take that. Here we go. It's Justin's question. I submitted an appeal for a budget increase earlier this month, but I haven't received an apply, and I'm starting to worry that I might have jumped the gun. Should we submit budget appeals immediately, or should we wait until a specific date? This is a good question. What do you think, Susan?
It's fine to submit budget appeals now, but depending on the type of budget increase you're requesting, we may not be able to process it at this point. We don't typically start processing 2015 budget appeals until a little bit later, once we see what your housing charges will be, and once you've registered and we see what your fees are, and we can verify the types of budget increases that you're eligible for.
Okay. Here we go, and this is a related question. I'm gonna answer this myself. We appealed and we had a review completed recently. Part of the appeal was to the transportation costs listed in the tuition and fees section be increased to cover real costs. Backup documents were provided. This was not addressed. Why? Well, TX Gordon, we're gonna have to look at that individual question. Most likely, if you appealed for multiple things, we may break them apart. As Susan said, some appeals, like budget appeals, may just make you eligible for additional PLUS loans, parent loans for undergraduate students, or unsubsidized loans. Other appeals may affect your estimated family contribution. So we do break those into 2 separate sections, and we would process them independently. But one thing I want to say, if you're asking a specific question about your financial aid, what happened to this document per se, you can always reach our Student Service Contact Center. We have about 35 people or full-time professional staff who answer your questions about your aid and can help you look up statuses and such. So let's go on to another question here. Hold on one second. Okay, we're going to go down and say, Susan, I'm going to ask you to take this too. This is C. Barker's question. Is a need-based review considered an appeal?
Well, a need-based review is kind of a general term that we use when we're reviewing an applicant's application for need-based aid. In general, that would be a need-based review. It would be the initial review when we determine your initial eligibility. It would also be done when you submit an appeal. Basically, when you submit an appeal, you're requesting a second review of your need-based financial aid eligibility. So we'll go back through your entire file again and take into account any additional information you've given us to determine if there's a basis to increase your eligibility for need-based financial aid.
Okay.
I hope that answers the question.
Okay, that's good. Let me. Here we go. I'm going to ask Cody to take Samira's question, please. Cody, if I apply for financial aid, international student, in my second year, what will my appeal be judged on? My family's financial status or my academic performance?
Thanks, Patrick. Hi, Samira. So I'm not sure if you were here at the beginning of the chat, but we had a similar question regarding international students and the applicability of need-based aid to them. So, you know, we base it based on your status here. So by international student, if you are coming from overseas and you have no permanent residency status in the United States, then you are still not eligible for financial aid. It's not something that 1 year on campus could make you eligible for need-based aid. We strictly do need-based assessments. If you were to, you know, get a merit-based award, that would be primarily done by your department. So depending on your chosen field of study, you might be eligible for a scholarship that, like you said, is based on merit. But that would be chosen outside of our office, communicated to us, and then coordinated. But they're kind of two separate issues, once again.
Okay. All right, that's very helpful. Let's go back and look at the questions. We're getting a lot of questions. This is good. And I believe that we said that there's a question here by Lay, and Jessica was going to take that, and I have to just find it. Oh, here we go. Here we go. I'm sorry, I found it. We have not applied for financial aid yet. We understand we would not be getting any aid this year, but will this affect our chances of getting financial aid in following semesters? Well, let's set them straight on this, Jessica.
So for the first part, when you mentioned that you will not be getting any aid this year, you actually don't know that until you apply for financial aid. So the first thing would be to actually go forth and apply for financial aid, submit your FAFSA, your Css Profile, your need access application, and then we'll communicate if we need any further documentation. But that would really be the first thing that you want to do, because again, you don't know what you're eligible for until you actually go through the application process. And no, if you do not apply for financial aid your first year, that doesn't hinder any eligibility for your sophomore, junior, or senior year. Financial aid is reviewed on an annual basis, and it's always based off of the information that is reported within that application cycle. So get that documentation in as soon as you possibly can so we can review your application.
Okay, that's great. I'm going to ask Danny to take Viren's question. Danny, my father is now realizing that he may not be able to contribute as much of an amount as he said on the Css Profile. Could the USC Financial Aid Department work with me on that? Otherwise, I might face a greater amount of debt.
Yeah, definitely. So if you ever need to make a change on the Css Profile, all you would have to do is log back in on the College Board, print out the page that you want to make a change to. So if you want to specifically make a change to that question on the Css Profile, print out that page, cross it out and pin, write the new amount that your father can contribute, have them initial next to it, and then upload it via your My Financial Aid and Documents account back to us, and then we can reconsider what you upload back to us. And you can do that at any time with any any new information that you may have.
Okay. Let me give Cody, because he's in aid coordination. I'm going to ask Cody to take Way's question. Cody, I was wondering, how does an outside scholarship, a Pullman Jackie Robinson scholarship perhaps, apply to the cost of attendance? I watched a live chat video last year, and it was said that these outside scholarships would take away from loans and work study. Is this true?
True. Thank you, Patrick. So to address Way's question, in my office, which again is the aid coordination unit of the financial aid office, we receive and coordinate all forms of financial aid. We discuss need-based aid, but within the university or within departments. But then, like you just mentioned, there are outside scholarships. Outside scholarships need to be factored into the equation. We do coordinate them accordingly, but it really kind of depends. There's really no one answer to kind of give you a blanket statement on this. Typically, we try to rearrange packages that are most beneficial to students. So if you do receive some kind of financial aid award, a lot of times it is loans that are typically backed out first. But again, it depends on what kind of outside award it is, how much the award is, and things like that. So that would kind of be a case-by-case basis, and definitely something you would want to work with us once you do get to campus and those outside awards do start coming in.
That's great. Yeah, we are looking at new ways to coordinate those outside awards, letting people exceed their USC need in some instances and use it against their federal need. So we're trying as much as possible to preserve the university grant that's in your financial aid package and allow you to work or borrow less. I'm going to let Jessica take Devin's question. There seems to be some interest in this. And Jessica, that's, can I still apply for a merit scholarship after my first semester?
Well, it depends on what merit scholarship you're referring to. So if you're referring to the full, the half, or the quarter tuition scholarships that are given out through the admissions office through the application process, unfortunately you're not eligible to apply for those as a continuing student. It is a one-time review process when you are entering the university. However, we do have a list of USC affiliated scholarships on our website that you may be eligible to apply for as a continuing student. So I encourage you to visit that site, and it's usc.edu/scholarships. And also there are merit scholarships sometimes within your department, so that may be also another source to look into. And I would probably recommend asking your academic advisor maybe during orientation, what's the process for merit scholarships as a continuing student. But we highly encourage you to apply for as many scholarships as you possibly can.
Okay, that's really helpful. I'm going to ask Danny to take Viren's question. Danny, when would I gain eligibility to apply for a Cal grant as an out-of-state student? In other words, when would I receive citizenship from California to be able to apply for a Cal grant? Can you explain how that process works?
Definitely, good question.
And Danny, I'm going to ask you to speak up just a little bit. I think people are having difficulty hearing some of us.
Definitely. Good question. So some of the qualifications to receive the Cal grant are that you've completed at least 3 years of high school here in California, as well as graduated from a California high school or received your GED from the California GED office. So if you've done that in a different state, even no matter how long you've been here in California, and even if you gain residency in the state, you won't be eligible to receive Cal grant funding. Now you may want to check with your specific state student aid commission. Now not all states allow their specific financial aid to transfer out of state. Some do, so you'll definitely want to check with them.
Okay, and I'm going to go back to Jessica now with Dongo's question. If a presidential scholarship recipient participates in one of the study abroad programs, and we have a lot of students who do study abroad, does the program cover half the tuition at the foreign institution too?
So this is kind of a two-part process. So the first thing is that it has to be a USC-sponsored study abroad program, and the second part is that it would cover the half of tuition here at USC. So we have some study abroad programs where they are more than what it would cost to attend USC for one semester. So it would always equal what the cost of tuition would be here for one semester for those that charge above what the cost of attendance would be. would be here for USC. If it's below, and Patrick, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but if it's below the cost of attendance, then it would equal the half of the cost of half of the tuition at that study abroad program.
That's how I understand it. Usually what happens, if the tuition at the other school is lower, we adjust our cost down, and it's going to be half of the final cost. There is a question here, and I'm going to answer one of these. Here we go. This is from, I can't even say this. This is Attendere. Oh, here we go. How does one go about applying for a federal direct parent plus loan? Well, I can explain this process. The parent would go to studentloans.gov and log in using the FAFSA, the Social Security number, name, birth date, and FAFSA PIN number. As soon as the parent does that, they can click on Request a Federal Direct Plus Loan. Now, the Department of Education's servicer will run the parent's credit for once every 180 days whenever you apply for a plus loan. So if you apply right now, it's going to be good for 180 days. They're looking to ensure that the parents don't have seriously adverse credit, they don't have bankruptcies or tax liens or foreclosures in the last 5 years, and that no current debt that has a balance of over $2,000 is more than 90 days delinquent. So generally we find that a lot of our USC parents and our graduate students who get plus loans are eligible to participate in the program. Once you tell us on that online process, it'll say, do you want this loan for fall, for spring, or for summer? And you just tell us, you fill out one for fall and one for spring, and you'd say, this is how much I want in the fall, and this is how much I want in the spring, or you can say, I want the maximum that I'm eligible to borrow. And they'll transmit that record to us, and then we would go ahead and process that loan. We won't start processing loans for fall until June, but that's how you do it. You do it at studentloans.gov, and it is the parent who does that process. Okay. My colleagues are volunteering to take a few more questions here, and let's see. I'm going to give, there was a question from someone named Joyce, and I'm going to ask Susan to answer that. Let me see what Joyce's question is here. I think it slid down a little. Here we go, Joyce. Susan, Joyce asks, if our family's financial circumstance stays the same throughout the student's college career, will the financial aid package remain the same from year to year?
The financial aid package should remain about the same from year to year. We would make adjustments if there's changes in the family's financial circumstances, and it's important to know that that includes, for example, if you have a sibling who's currently in college and that sibling graduates from college, then that will affect the expected parent contribution toward you. We also take into account increases in costs from year to year. So as you know, if the tuition cost goes up, your budget will go up from year to year. Also, the expected student contribution will increase the first couple of years. But overall, the budget increase typically would offset that student contribution increase. So if there are no financial circumstances changes in your family, then typically your financial aid would remain similar from year to year, as long as, and this is very key, you apply for financial aid on time and don't miss any deadlines.
That is a great point. Can't stress this enough. As I said before, as new freshmen, we're not expecting you to meet the deadline. We just know if you haven't applied today, we'll still process your aid, but you might not get it in time for make a decision on Friday. But for continuing students, we do strongly enforce the deadlines. So if you are a late applicant, the quality of your financial aid package will vary. So thanks so much for that, Susan. I'm going to ask Armando to take Samantha's question. Armando, how are work-study jobs different from other jobs on campus? Are the workloads manageable, or would I have to give up a minor or take less classes to be in activities and to manage it? Let's answer that.
So work-study is a great option for you to have. It's very flexible. The reason why we have work-study is because the employers here at USC, they're aware that you're a student. So they're aware that sometimes the schedule has to be flexible. So in those regards, no, you don't have to pretty much give up on your dreams of taking a minor or taking less classes, because work-study is made to fit in your schedule.
Okay, that's really great. You know, and lots of studies have been done to show that those students who have to go to class and have to study and have to have a social life and have to eat and sleep and bathe and go to work do all things better because they're learning to manage their time better, and there's less time spent in a vegetative state. So, so we really encourage you to to work if at all possible. If you have that work study job, it's always better to work today and maybe borrow a little bit less. Okay, let's go back to the questions here. And there was, oh, here's one. And this is about the payment plan. I'm going to take this one. My question is about the interest-free USC payment plan. Up to how much of my estimated cost can I pay off through the plan? And is there a deadline to apply for it? Okay, so the payment plan allows you to break up the bills that you would get from USC, which is usually, if you're living on campus, it's going to include housing, but it's always going to include tuition and mandatory fees. And again, if you're living on campus, like most of our freshmen do, you might also have your housing bill and your dining bill involved in that as well. So you could actually, if you're not receiving any financial aid, any direct credit, and you have that whole bill to pay, you could break that whole amount up into 5 payments. Now, and so the first payment is in August, and the last one is August, September, October, November, December. And then you could do it again in the spring. The deadline, the application becomes available on August 1st. Right, Jessica? August 1st?
It might be the last week of July.
Oh.
We haven't had a confirmed date yet, but it might be the end of July, beginning of August. I would say August 1st to be 100% positive.
Okay, so we're going to come to consensus. Last week of July, at beginning of August, that payment plan application should be done. You'd need to file it pretty much immediately upon when it's available, because that first payment is due in August, and it's going to be debited from that checking or savings account just before, right when our regular payments are due. Okay, hopefully that answers your question. So let's go down here. Here's a question. On the financial aid page, I'm going to take this one too, if that's okay for my colleagues. On the financial aid page, it says that USC offers interest-free loans. When does payment start, and how is the amount paid monthly decided? So, the university does have some limited amount of institutional loans. We also participate in the federal Perkins loan program right now. For all of the USC institutional loans, repayment does begin after you leave school, 6 months after you graduate, withdraw, or drop below half-time status. On the federal Perkins loan, if you're a Perkins loan recipient, the interest rate is fixed at 5%. Most of the USC loans, they vary a little bit. There are limited amounts of those loans. Most of them are around 5%. Some of them are slightly higher. Interest does not accrue while you're in school. That's paid for by the university. On the Perkins loan, there is actually a 9-month grace period. So payments begin 9 months after you graduate, withdraw, or drop below half-time status. And the payment amounts, they decide how much have you borrowed, and they divide that into 120 equal payments. That's 10 years of repayment. The minimum payment amount per month is always $50. So let's take, I have, Viren has another question, and 3 people seem interested in that. So I'm going to ask Susan. I'm going to go back to Susan for this one. Follow up. My family will probably be able to afford about 10% of my EFC amount as stated on my FAST page. What do I do? Could the USC Financial Aid Office perhaps reevaluate my offer? If so, under what category and reasoning would I file my appeal? Susan.
Okay. Well, first of all, if you haven't already appealed your financial aid award, you can definitely do that. Or even if you've already appealed it once, if you want us to take another look at it and you have additional circumstances, you can appeal it a second time. And to do that, you would write up an explanation as to your current family financial circumstances, and you would upload that using the appeal of estimated family contribution link on the DMS page. And we will take another look at your file and see if there's anything possible. Make sure that you mention any special expenses your parents have, any special circumstances that prevent them from being able to afford the expected family contribution. And then we'll take another look at it. If, once we've done everything we possibly can as far as need-based financial aid, then that would be the time for the discussion of possibly financing programs, the Federal Parent Plus loan, the payment plan that Patrick just talked about, different ways to manage that contribution rather than being able to pay it out of pocket.
Okay, that's really good. So let's there's another question here from TX Gordon. Let me just answer this quickly. Can I enter into a 10-month USC payment plan for the year instead of 2 5-month plan? No, TX, that's not possible. It is a payment plan per semester with 5 payments. It is interest-free, but there is a $50 application fee per term. So let's go down, and I'm going to ask Cody. Here's a question from Guy, if that's okay. For spring admitted students, do they follow the same schedule for financial aid? Follow up on this question, does a spring admitted student pay only for the 2nd semester of that year? Well, that's a good question.
Thank you, Patrick. I would hope so. But in terms of spring admin students, that's a very good question. Thank you so much for asking it. So the schedule, or I should say the timeline, is the same. We're hoping to have received all of your financial aid documents already. If you haven't submitted them, please go ahead and do so as soon as possible. We can process you for your financial aid once that's done, and it will simply be packaged for the spring semester. So it's basically 1 semester's worth of financial aid versus a student who's enrolled for both fall and spring would be seeing the fall semester and spring semester accordingly. So that would be adjusted to account for the spring admin students.
Okay. Great. Thank you so much. I'm going to just take this question from Claire. Will this video be recorded so my parents can listen to this, all of this later? Yes, indeed. We do record this. It'll be archived on our YouTube page. Okay, and now let's have Jessica take Viren's question. Viren's got a lot of good questions today, Jessica. Let's do this. How much do work-study jobs usually pay on an hourly basis? I've heard that work-study jobs pay less than minimum wage. Well, that'd be good, but it's not true. Although I know it sounds absurd, I just wanted to make sure.
Alrighty, so I have never heard of a work-study student getting paid less than minimum wage. Your hourly rate is decided by your employer, so what usually happens is when you come in as an incoming freshman, you usually start either at minimum wage or maybe a little bit above that depending on your employer. And what I've seen just from talking to my students is that they gradually increase. Once they come back sophomore, junior, and senior year, the hourly rate would increase a little bit every year. But no, you don't get paid less than minimum wage as a work-study student.
Yeah, I think generally, depending on your skill set, you can make far more than minimum wage. It all depends on what skills you bring to the table. I know some students, if you're working in a technical job or you're doing some computer work, you could be making a lot more than minimum wage. I'm going to answer Annie's question myself. Where do we apply for the USC interest-free loan? I'll tell you what, the loans that USC give are all part of the need-based aid application. So if we have determined under our analysis that you are eligible for those loans will be included in your financial aid package. You can't just apply for it separately, okay? And let's have Armando, can you take Samira's question, please? And that is, what kind of campus job opportunities are available for international students?
So, in those regards, definitely contact the Career Center and as well the Office of International Student Affairs. And that way they can definitely guide you to the right places around campus.
Okay. Yeah, there is some employment that's available because usually you are permitted to work when you are a student, but that would be handled through the Career Placement Office and the Office of International Students. So Prajwal has a question, and I'm going to go back to Jessica. The USC scholarship, will it be a one-time payment to the university, or is it staggered through the USC payment time? Do you understand that question fully? I'm not sure I do.
I think you're asking how will your USC scholarship be dispersed to your account. If that's not your question, go ahead and rewrite the question and we can get to it a bit later. But all of your financial aid, both need-based financial aid grants and USC scholarships, are dispersed per semester. So you would receive your fall disbursement, and then once spring starts, you would receive your spring disbursement. And we do go over how financial aid expenses to your account during orientation. So that would be a session that you would be able to attend if you want to understand a little bit more on how financial aid actually expenses to your account. But the quick answer is you receive half in fall and half in spring. It's not all dispersed at the beginning of the semester.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm going to ask Danny. Let's take Annie's question. Danny and Annie, here we go. How can one get a commitment extension?
Good question. You'll definitely want to reach out to the admissions office. They handle the commitment and turning in that commitment deposit, so definitely contact them. You can call their main number at 213-740-4444.
Okay, thank you so much. Let's see, I have a question about loans. I'm going to take this because that's my area of expertise. I have a question about loans. Is there a limit to how many non-private loans one can get? Also, I am a U.S. citizen, but I live abroad, and neither I nor my family have bank accounts in the U.S. Can we get loans anyway? Can we set these things up from abroad? Okay, so a couple things. When we talk about loans, there's usually two groups. There's non-federal loans and federal loans. So a non-private loan, I'm going to assume you mean is a federal loan. And if you are a U.S. citizen, even if you are living abroad, you can borrow through the unsubsidized or the subsidized federal Stafford loan, and your parents can borrow through the Parent Plus loan, even if you are living abroad, as long as there's two requirements you have to think about. The parents have to be able to pass the credit check that I mentioned earlier. You have to be free from seriously adverse credit. In addition, it does require you to have an address within the United States to complete your promissory note for those loans. So generally what we ask people to do is to update their address to a friend or a family member who is within the 50 United States that can be the touch base place for that U.S. citizen who lives abroad. So you would have to update that. Are there limits to the federal loans? Yes, there are limits to the federal loans. During the first year, it's $5,500 in the federal direct loan, and subsidized or unsubsidized. Second year is $6,500. Third year and fourth year are both $7,500 in the subsidized and unsubsidized direct Stafford loans for those students who are considered dependent for federal purposes. There is no limit for the federal Parent Plus loan other than the cost of attendance less other financial aid received. Okay, hopefully that answers that question, and I'm going to see there's got some volunteers to take additional questions. I think okay, here we go. Let me go back. I'm getting a lot of questions here. Okay, okay. I'm going to give this to Cody. Are there jobs available on campus, like the front desk of the library, for non-work study students, and where would we find these opportunities?
Thanks, Patrick. Sure, short answer, Annie, is yes, there definitely are jobs that are available to non-work study students. Like you said, the library is one that I do know for sure takes non-work study students. Campus Cruiser hires non-work study students. And there are a few other, I think, opportunities around campus that you would probably want to discover through your own investigation. But basically, I would probably go to the, I think they have a student jobs fair, I believe, for sure, in the fall semester, possibly in the spring as well, where they have different departments set up on Truesdale Parkway. You could quickly, I think, examine your options if you were to attend that event, and maybe approach potential employers on campus, ask them what their policy was if they take non-work study students, take it kind of from there. But if you just do a little bit of investigation, you will, I think, be rewarded and find some opportunities that are open to you.
Okay, that's really good. Next, we're going to ask a question from a mom. Hi, Mom. It's Kelsey, and I'm going to ask Jessica to answer this question. I am an RN parent mom. If I were to work for a USC facility, e.g. Keck School of Medicine, one of the Keck hospitals, when would the employee be eligible for the student at USC to have tuition covered?
Good question. So you would actually have to check with the benefits office. If I remember correctly, you would have to work at USC for at least 3 years before the tuition benefit would kick in. But you may want to confirm that with our USC benefits office. They have all of that information listed online as well. So it would be very quick to go ahead and research that through the benefits website.
Okay, yeah, that's always best to check with the employer rather than the financial aid office on that. I'm going to ask Danny to take Modup's question. Danny, is work study required for both semesters? Also, would one be able to allow to work if they acquire the allotted amount of wages stated on their financial aid summary document, or could they continue to earn pocket money? These are great questions. Let me just say, when I find students who are willing to work and interested in working in work study jobs, it just gives me a goosebump moment. I'm so excited that they're going to work their work study jobs. Danny.
Definitely. Good question, Modip. Basically, you're not required to work either semester. If you do want to access those funds, you do need to get a work study approved job. And you can choose. Maybe you want to work the fall semester, but then spring you don't, or maybe you want to work both. You can definitely choose. As well, some departments will allow you to continue working once you've hit that max that is on your financial aid award summary. But most of the time, they usually don't, just because then they're having to pay you directly out of their budget. So you'll want to check with whatever department you do get a work-study job with.
Okay, that's very helpful. There's a question here from Joanne that I'm going to take myself. It's a little extension on our conversation of the payment plan. If the USC payment plan is interest-free, which it is, and the other loan options, such as the federal direct loan, then wouldn't every student just choose to apply for the USC payment plan? Do the non-USC payment plans have pros or cons that the USC payment plan does not? So usually what happens, Joanne, this is a good question. You're right, our payment plan is interest-free, but really what it is, it's a cash management tool, if you think about it. If you're going to use the payment plan, you're going to say, I am going to cover this amount of tuition and fees and books, supplies, everything within that 5 months. Now, some families can say, yeah, I'm going to draw from my current income and assets to hit this amount of my expenses during the course of the semester, which is great. I love the pay-as-you-go thing. But other families are going to choose to say, instead of drawing from my current income and assets, I'd like to spread this out over a longer period of time. I'd like to spread out my part of this contribution over a longer period of time. And to do that, they're going to take the Federal Plus loan, which does charge interest, but allows them to take up to 10 years to repay that amount. It also allows them to defer their payments while they're in school, while the students in school at least have time. So perhaps you're going to say part of the family contribution is covered by a plus loan. I'm going to defer that for a while, and then as possible, I'm going to draw from my current income and assets to use the payment plan as well. So we see many families using a combination of these financing tools to help meet their family's contribution. Okay, let's go down to Devin, and I think, who was it? Danny said you were going to take this?
Sure, I can take it.
Okay, Danny, we have Devin's question. Can you pay the 5-month payment plan on a credit card?
I believe you can. You may want to talk to, you mean paying each installment? You wouldn't pay it completely, because what happens is you set it up with the Student Financial Services Office, and then they would pay off your total completely. And month-to-month billing that you do get, I believe you can pay it with a credit card. You'll definitely want to check with Student Financial Services, because I do know they don't accept all credit card types. You'll definitely want to check with them.
Okay, yeah, I'm not sure actually if they're still taking credit cards for the payment plan. I know they will take credit cards just as a regular form of payment, but I believe on the payment plan they're looking to debit from a checking or a savings account. But again, Danny's advice is really best there. If you go to usc.edu/SFS for Student Financial Services, you can click on the payment plan link there, and it'll tell you all the terms and conditions of that payment plan. Okay, let's go down and okay, here's a question from Wei, and I'm going to ask Susan to take this question. I've been told many different things when I called the FA office. Well, Wei, we're sorry if you've gotten inconsistent answers. Would it be fair to say if I received like $47,000 in USC grant, which is a great deal, outside of scholarships will no longer matter because the grant will decrease? Susan, so do we still think that outside scholarships are a good deal? I would say yes. What do you think?
I think outside scholarships are still a good deal, and I think that's too general of a statement. I don't think an amount of $47,000 is going to be high enough to where the scholarship won't help the student. It's an individual situation based on the individual student's package and their scholarships, and also the types of scholarships that they have. So it's difficult to make a general statement about that, but outside scholarships are always a good thing.
Yeah, I would agree with Susan. We really want to encourage people, if you've got a line on an outside scholarship, man, you really want to complete that process and try to get that money. As much as possible, we will try to protect the university grant that's in your student financial aid summary today. Generally, outside scholarships can go to meet federal need, they can go to replace your work study or your work award or your loan awards. Sometimes we can make a subsidized loan into an unsubsidized loan, so then you're able to use the loan to cover your family contribution, where before the loan was meeting your USC need. So we really want to encourage you to do that. And as Susan said, it's really a case-by-case thing. You have to see what your need is and what your cost of attendance is. So please, contact us for more specific information about your account. But we want to encourage you to go out and look for those scholarships. Okay. Prajwal has a question, and Jessica is going to take that. I will probably enroll at USC tomorrow. Yay! I'm still thinking about Carnegie versus USC. Oh. So if I enroll, can I choose the payment plan dates and timings?
Okay, so the payment plan dates and timings are not set by the Office of Financial Aid. They're actually set by Student Financial Services. And those are usually set dates. So just like any other bill that you have in your life, you have a payment date that it needs to be in by. That's the same way that the payment plan works. So you would have to set up the payment plan before the Friday before classes start, and then your second payment, when you set up the payment plan, they let you know exactly what date your payments need to be in by. So you wouldn't have the option to actually choose those dates. Those are decided for you by Student Financial Services, and that's across the board. Every single student that's enrolled in a payment plan has the same due date every single semester.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, that's really helpful. We're going to go. Anish has asked a couple questions, and let me just answer these quickly. And I'm not sure when you came in, Anish. This chat won't be helpful to a student who is an Indian citizen. Again, need-based financial aid is largely for U.S. citizens or eligible permanent residents or other eligible non-citizens. If you are a citizen of India and do not have permanent residence here, or you don't qualify under AB 540, this conversation might not be as helpful as you'd like. I'm not sure if we've answered that specifically yet. Also, Anish has asked, being an international student, I submit all my financial documents. Will I be eligible for merit scholarships? Merit scholarships and need-based aid are two separate entities. So your merit scholarships are determined by your admissions application, possibly through academic departments, and our role in that process is to coordinate those awards to make sure they don't exceed your USC determined financial need. Again, if you're an international student, we're not determining a USC need for you, so that doesn't truly apply. Danny, can you restate the steps involved in reporting change in income? I didn't catch all of his reply. Restate the steps involved. So changes in circumstances. Danny, talk to us about appeals.
Definitely. So the way you would submit an appeal to us, there's actually 3 different ways you can submit an appeal to us, but the best way is to upload an appeal. And the way you do that is you log into your My Financial Aid and Documents or FAST account. You have access to this through your USC account. Log in there, and then you would select from the document library which appeal that you would like to turn into us. Some appeals would allow you to upload a letter and any supporting documents. When you are appealing, that letter that you are writing, make sure to be very detailed and be very specific. You can submit that to us, or if you need to make a change, for instance, to the Css Profile like we discussed earlier, you would just go to the College Board, print that out, make the change in PIN, upload it back to us through that My Financial Aid and Documents account. As well, we do have some online forms in the document library on the My Financial Aid and Documents account, where you can also do different types of appeals there. But those would be the best ways. You can also, say for instance, you write out an appeal, you can fax it into us using the fax cover sheets that you get from the My Financial Aid Documents account, or you can bring it into our office. Both of these ways are much slower. They take a lot more time than just directly uploading them. So that's why we always advise to upload those letters.
Okay, thanks so much, Danny. And here's a question from Connor, and I'm going to ask Jessica to answer it. Jessica, Connor is looking at deferring to the fall of 2016. Would I be able to reapply for scholarships and financial aid for the 16-17 school year?
So for financial aid, you're more than welcome to reapply for financial aid. The only thing that I would recommend is that you make sure to meet the deadlines that are specified on our website, and we'll usually post those about the end of November, beginning of December every year. So you want to make sure that you reference our website first figure out what the deadlines are and what you actually need to submit in order to apply for financial aid. Now, in regards to scholarships, if you're looking to reapply for the scholarships from the admissions office, so the full, the half, or the quarter tuition scholarship, unfortunately you wouldn't be eligible to apply for those because those are the students that are considered are entering students every year. So unfortunately you wouldn't be able to be considered for those scholarships. But you want to check out the scholarships link on our website. Those may have some other USC affiliated scholarships that you may be eligible to apply for. But yes, definitely make sure you reapply for financial aid if you are choosing to come in on the 16-17 academic year.
Oops, okay, I hit the wrong button.
That's okay.
I'm going to ask Susan to take Joyce's question, please. Susan, how is the amount of federal Pell Grant determined? Does the amount of university grant weigh in on this? Is it possible to increase the amount, or does the appeal only give hope for an increase in university grant money, or both? Well, money is money. Grant money is grant money. But answer Joyce's question if you would.
Sure. The federal Pell Grant amount is determined using something called federal methodology. It's a formula set up by the federal government that we use. It takes into account income, assets, and university grant is determined based on university methodology. So it's determined in a different way than federal Pell Grant. So when you submit an appeal asking for additional aid, we will look at both of those methodologies and do whatever we can and take whatever we're allowed to take into account to increase both your federal and your university grant money as much as possible.
Okay, that's good. I'm going to take Claire's question here. Well, actually, let's take C. Barker. C. Barker asks, what are the terms of the PLUS loans? Currently, the interest rate on the PLUS loan is 7.21%, and that is a fixed rate loan, but that is for loans that are taken out between July 1st of last year and June 30th of next year. In the next several weeks, the Department of Education will be announcing the interest rate for next year. I think it might be slightly higher for the next year. Once the interest rate is set for the year, all loans that are made that year have that interest rate, and they'll be carried for the life of the loan. I do know that the fees on that loan are going down, actually. They were 4.292%. I believe they're 4.68 this next year. So, but if you check at studentloans.gov, you'll see a little bit more about how the interest rates are calculated for those loans. And again, they're set on July 1st for all loans made for the following year. I'm going to ask Armando to take Tala's question, if he would, please. Armando, I am a spring admit. I was wondering if there are any scholarship opportunities for me in the next semester.
Sure. As a continuing student, what I suggest is definitely go to the Alumni Association. There should be applications by the end of this year available for our students, and as well be proactive for outside scholarships. There are new policies that we may be able to add into the package, so definitely these scholarships would definitely be supplemental in a smaller amount, but any little amount helps.
Okay, thank you so much. You know what, I think we're wrapping up our hour just about now, but I'm going to ask Jessica to take Gary Burkhart's question. And Jessica, how do my ex-wife and I apply for student loans for our daughter? Can your office help coordinate this? We're very concerned we do not qualify for enough to pay tuition. What happens if we're denied? Can USC help?
Okay, so that's a mouthful. So let's kind of take the first part first. So the first thing is that you would actually not be applying for the student loans for your daughter. The Federal Direct Stafford loan is in the name of the student. So the student would have to...
Uh-oh.
Whoops.
What's going on?
I am not sure. I think we just lost our live broadcast. Well, Jessica lost her live broadcast. Just in case, I'm going to continue to answer this question. So Gary asks about student loans being taken for his daughter. The student takes out the student loans. The parents can take out the parent loans. And Jessica's logging back in. Not quite sure what happened to her. Oh, and now here's Jessica back again. So I was just saying the parent can take out the parent loans, and you tell them more about that process.
So the parents are able, sorry about that, the parents are able to borrow the loans, and both parents can apply for their individual loans. So you can set up the amount that you would like to borrow individually, and then complete the application process, again, individually. So one parent would go in, put their social, their information, and then the second parent would be able to do the same. Now, the part on our end is to verify, one, that you're eligible for the amount. The federal government actually verifies the entire credit check portion. If you are ineligible to borrow that loan, then you can most definitely apply with an endorser known as a co-borrower as well. That may meet some of the credit criteria. If for any reason neither one of you is eligible for that Parent Plus loan, then you can contact our office and we can discuss the options to possibly increase your student's unsubsidized Stafford loan eligibility. But I think that kind of covers it. Patrick, would you like to add anything else?
Oh, I think now that we got you back connected, we're glad to see you again. I think you answered that correctly. In the instance that either parent can borrow through the Federal Plus Loan Program, there is some eligibility for additional unsub, but we find generally that most of our parents are able to meet the credit criteria now, unless you have seriously adverse credit. If you go to studentloans.gov and you click on the FAQ section at the top, and then credit check and adverse credit, you can see which elements establish seriously adverse credit. Okay, so I think that's all the time we have for our web chat, our hangout today. We thank you all for joining us. Congratulations on your admission to USC. I have to say, you know, I came to USC a long time ago as a student. I don't think I could be admitted again. You guys are bright, you're smart, you have a lot of options, a lot of opportunities. We're excited that you may choose to become part of the USC community. And so my congratulations. I'm going to sign off and let my rest of my colleagues say goodbye. So, Susan?
Bye. Thank you.
There's Jess.
Bye. Fight on.
Congratulations.
Fight on, guys.
There we go. And Armando.
Bye, and congrats on your admissions.
Okay, congratulations. Thanks so much for joining us today. Have a great day.